Angela Merkel draws a line in the sand over so-called Eurobonds.
Apart from the fact that euro bonds and euro bills and so on are unconstitutional in Germany, I believe they are economically wrong and counterproductive. There are no quick or easy solutions. There is no magic formula or some coup with which the debt crisis can be overcome once and for all.
Now European leaders are back at the negotiating table in an effort to save the Eurozone. I'm Peter Latman reporting for Business Day Live. Later in the show, we'll be hearing from Brian Stelter about the changing price of broadband service. And Amy Chozick is here to give us the latest on a potential breakup of News Corp. But first, I'm joined by Peter Eavis from DealBook. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Peter.
So, as we just saw in that clip, political tensions continue to run high. We've got a big, some say crucial European summit meeting in Brussels starting tomorrow. But things don't seem all that happy as we head into it.
Yeah, no, you still have Germany holding out on some key demands, and you still have Italy, France, and other countries still not willing to give up certain things themselves. So
Right.
there definitely hasn't been a meeting of minds before this summit.
And help us understand this Eurobonds issue that Merkel was talking to about in that clip. So, Italy and Spain want a unified Eurobond issue that spans across the various countries, yet Merkel's saying not so fast.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the great benefit of Eurobonds for a country like Italy is that they can use other people's better credit to reduce their borrowing costs and continue to access the bond markets and fund their deficit. That's the upside for Italy. But Germany's worried about giving up its credit without also getting control over these countries' spending.
Right.
So it's like Germany's saying, look, you can't just use our balance sheet to borrow without also allowing some central body in Europe to control your spending, and that's where the fight is.
So she's saying countries, Italy, Spain, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, that would be the German perspective. The other perspective, of course, is that if you don't do something quick, then these countries won't be able to borrow, and then you'll intensify the crisis and threaten the euro itself.
Huh. There's some other financial news this morning that I wanted to touch on that spans both continents, North America and Europe, which is this news out of Barclays. So Barclays has struck a settlement with regulators here over allegations that it manipulated a key interest rate. Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, no, this is a very important case because this interest rate called LIBOR is the basis, it's the benchmark for setting all sorts of different interest rates across the financial system. So its influence is huge. And incredibly, what Barclays was doing, or allegedly doing, was telling it contributes to this interest rate. It helps set this interest rate. And it was setting that interest rate at a level that would benefit some traders over here. And so it was making profits out of allegedly manipulating this interest rate, which is, if you read the suit, it's fascinating.
Yeah, and the U.S. regulators, I guess, led by the CFTC, and the Financial Service Authority in Britain.
Yeah.
I think the fine is $450 million that Barclays is paying, and they've also struck a deal with the Justice Department to not be prosecuted as a result of this alleged manipulation. Do you think, is this going to be the only settlement, or are other banks being investigated?
There are definitely other banks that are being investigated, and some of them, there may not be a settlement, and the other ones, there might be outright kind of prosecutions.
Well, it'll be an interesting story to watch. Thanks for coming on, Peter.
Thanks.
The number of people willing to pay for television has steadily decreased, putting pressure on the cable industry to find new sources of revenue. Many companies, like Time Warner Cable, think they have found a solution by changing how they charge people for broadband internet services. Brian Stelter explains.
Broadband internet tends to be a high-margin business, a profitable business for the companies that provide it. And as they feel pressure on their lower margin businesses like cable television, they seem to be taking the broadband side of the equation and ratcheting it up. Over time, what we're seeing is wired internet becoming more like wireless internet. We're all used to paying AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile every month, depending on how much phone and text and data we consume. In the future, our broadband bills will probably look more like that as well. Using less internet might cost us less, using more internet might cost us more. This idea is called usage-based billing, and it's catching on among companies because it gives them more flexibility in the way they price broadband. They can move the price up or down, and it also gives them perhaps more income for investment in broadband in the future. But it is concerning to startups and other companies that want to create really useful, interesting news services on the internet. There are consumer groups that say this could tamp down on innovation in the future because, well, if you know the meter's running, you might try to use less internet every month. One of the early sites for these tests is in Texas, in San Antonio, where customers are being trained to keep track of how much they use every month with a meter they can view online. That kind of meter is good for consumers because it lets them know when they're getting close to the limit. But as this idea rolls out in many parts of the country, we're going to have to think a little more about how much broadband we're using, how many YouTube videos we're watching, how many Netflix films we're viewing. Over time, logging off the internet might start to feel more like turning off the lights when you're leaving the house.
Finally, the board of News Corp will review a proposal to break up the company's entertainment arm from its publishing unit. Amy Chozick is here to discuss the possible changes at Rupert Murdoch's multi-billion-dollar empire. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
So we've heard for some time about the potential for this happening.
Yep.
The sort of faster growing entertainment assets being cleaved off from the old line newspaper business.
Right.
And there's always been these rumors, and now finally this might come to fruition?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even before phone hacking in the UK was a problem, you know, some people within News Corp had brought proposals to get rid of the papers, spinning them off, selling them, turning them into a trust, various proposals. Of course, these were all promptly, very quickly shot down by Rupert Murdoch, who has a love for newspapers and has wanted to keep these. Under this plan of spinning them off, he would still have control of them. They would just be a separate publicly traded company, much smaller from the company that would hold the entertainment assets, the cable channels, the movie studio, and those things.
Right. Now, shareholders clearly like this rumor because the stock went up, I think, almost 10% yesterday. But tell us about this newspaper company that would be spun off. I guess there's about 175 newspapers, which I was surprised by the number, and then also the HarperCollins publishing assets.
Right.
But who would want to own that company?
Well, Rupert Murdoch will own that company, so it will still be, his company, and his family will control it. But they're still working on the structure. There's going to be other assets within that company, and one of the things they're trying to figure out is what other assets could kind of financially prop up the newspapers. So Joel Klein came over and started an education group within News Corp that could potentially be very lucrative in the future. That will be within the new publishing company.
And your story suggested that Joel Klein might actually have a senior executive post in that newspaper publishing company.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's not a newspaper man. I'm not sure he would be picked as CEO, but he will have a senior role, absolutely.
And Chase Carey, who is going to head up the entertainment assets, is he the one behind this? Has he been pushing for getting rid of the old line newspaper assets?
Well, I'd say this is a victory for Chase Carey. I mean, he has been talking about at investor conferences how, certainly they've considered spinning off the papers, and it's kind of well known that he's never been a fan of the papers the way Rupert is, and he's much more, he feels that the cable channels have kind of not been given the value that they deserve, partly because of the drag on the finances by the papers. So he would definitely stay at the entertainment side of the company, and I'd say he is pretty happy about this moving forward.
And he has one of the all-time great mustaches in
great
corporate
mustache,
America.
Which, a little known fact.
I learned this from you, right? It hides a scar from hockey or rugby?
No, he was actually, people think it is a rugby scar, but actually he was in a terrible car accident in college, went through the windshield, and the mustache hides a scar.
So when is the board meeting?
The board meeting is today.
Today.
So they could decide as early as tomorrow whether this will definitely go through. But they did fly in top editors from all over the world, Australia, the UK, to meet yesterday. So that's a signal that they're extremely serious about this.
Wow. Thanks for coming on, Amy.
Sure, thanks for having me.
That's all for today. Please follow us at nytimes.com for our continuing coverage of these and other stories. I'm Peter Latman, reporting for Business Day Live. Thanks for watching.